Hi everybody, I'm David Weigelt, and this is your Silver Tsunami update for Friday, December 9th, 2011. I hope everybody had an enjoyable and a productive week. It was a great week here at Immersion Active. Man, we got some cool stuff going on. Everybody seems to be in the holiday spirit despite the end of year crunch deadlines that we're under, so that's a good thing. And so for this week's Silver Tsunami update, as always, I have 3 highlights for you, and then I want to dive into one area, and then I've got your Quicksilver question of the month. Okay, for starters, interesting article out of the Ottawa Citizen. Yes, Canada. Increasingly, there are things to be learned from Canada, and in this case, I was just really impressed with this article. Kind of feel like maybe I should have featured it, to be honest. Talks about how the Occupy movement is not the generational thing that the media is making it out to be. So in case you haven't been paying attention, the media is increasingly making, whether it's Occupy Wall Street or any of these various movements, something where it's the young kind of, pitted against the older adults, who had it so good and had all these opportunities available to them, and now the younger generation is strapped by debt. This article does an excellent job, written by Robert Wright, of kind of debunking some of those generational myths. Probably one of the best written articles along those lines that I've written in a long time. Frankly, it made me want to throw away the term boomer from my vocabulary altogether. The next article talks about how boomers, for the first time, are truly thinking and acting more conservatively when it comes to their own spending. And this is based on some research by Big Research, and our friend Matt Thornhill and the Boomer Project were quoted. And specifically, the survey said that for the first time, boomers are focused more on spending on needs than wants, with the exception of one category, and that is their spending as grandparents. I think this is interesting. It talked about grandparents in the U.S. spending $7.6 billion, and this is up 71% since 1999. And they talk about several factors I'm going to tell you about in a second. But as I'm sharing that with you, I would ask you to take into consideration, maybe even read the previous article about Occupy Wall Street. Because really what we're finding here is, in my opinion, grandparents not just spending on toys for their grandkids, but spending on items of necessity, such as diapers and food and so forth, that in this economy has really made that spending go up. Some of the factors that they reference, all these factors can be boiled down to, they simply have more money, even in this economy. In the U.S., 46% of total household income is held by households that are led by boomer age adults. And then in the past 10 years, adults 55 plus have seen an increase in household income by, get this, $659 billion. Now here's the part that really surprised me. I wasn't aware of this data, so I'm not sure if it's new, but households with adults 25 to 44 declined by $312 billion. So this is big stuff, and we've said for a while, if there's any life stage that you want to focus on with an older consumer, man, grandparents is a great one. But again, think about items of necessity, not just toys. So my final top-line article for you today mentioned is actually a blog post from our friends at Creating Results, and I thought, man, they did a great job on this. Talking how, the title was how boomers may only need a nudge to use QR codes. And so this article does a really good job of talking about the opportunities, but also the pitfalls of using QR codes with our consumers. It starts off by citing a data point that 55% of adults 55 plus recognize QR codes for what they are. But only 7% of all QR code utilization is believed to be from adults 55 plus. And then it went on to address some of the reasons why. I think they had a handful of tips in there. Some of the tips included the fact that most QR codes are just kind of slapped on whatever the poster, the print ad, without a whole lot of explanation as to how to engage with it or why to engage with it. And so that was a point well taken. And then, of course, the point that really resonated with me is, frankly, even once you do engage with most of these QR codes, I'm blown away at how little value there is. I've several times opened up an in-flight magazine, which that boggles my mind because there's only so many flights right now with Wi-Fi, but an in-flight magazine, scanned a QR code only to be sent to a company's bloated home page or some other page that represents basically the page I'm looking at. So as always, we need to think about those values. Really nice blog post. So my feature topic for today has to do with Apple's new technology in the new iPhone 4S, and it's called Siri. And so for those of you who aren't familiar, Siri is some integrated artificial intelligence software that allows me to simply hold a button on my phone and ask my phone a question, and it responds to me. So I'm sure you've seen the commercials for this by now. So a few data points that were mentioned in this blog post. Frankly, this blog post was kind of short and not really in depth, but I felt like given it's the holiday season and I think we're about to see increased momentum in this area, it was something worth talking about. So as most of us marketers know, about 35% of adults in the U.S. have smartphones. As far as our consumers go, about 24% of adults 50 to 64, and only 1%, I don't think that's right, I think it's 11% of adults 65 plus have a smartphone. But this is changing quickly. And so this blog post shares a couple of reasons that they think that Siri is going to kind of open the door for boomers to the world of smartphones. The most obvious reason is that it's easy. So if there was any fear on an older adult's part to engage with a smartphone or get a smartphone because they're not sure they're going to know how to use it or they're going to get lost in the experience, as I think is very possible in the Android operating system, then they can, with the single touch of a button, ask their question, whatever it is. So point well taken. It's the obvious observation there. The second thing, though, is they go on to explain how this works and the fact that Siri is actually linking to a lot of different databases. So some people are saying that Siri is replacing Google, but that's not the case. Siri, in fact, potentially is using Google as one of its data sources to answer the user's question. So here's how this works. This is important, and this is very, very basic level. What happens is Apple contracted with a company called Nuance, and this company does a good job of interpreting natural language to text. That text is then not simply delivered to Google, but actually runs through a layer of what's called artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is simply another algorithm that takes a variety of factors into consideration, accents, cultural factors, and it helps understand the context of the question so that it can deliver the best results. From there, Apple is tapping a variety of databases, whether it's Yahoo Weather, Google, Yelp. So a couple of thoughts here. This blog post, for starters, suggested that we need to focus on other things, but maybe not PPC going forward. And I'm not sure I would be so quick to write that off. It's very common with this new technology that we don't see ads and then quickly we see ads. So you can be sure that multiple forms of advertising will become available and part of our lives as a result of this technology. But some other considerations that I want to share with you that I think this combination of artificial intelligence and the interpretation of natural language queries are going to bring to the table. The first is, I think that if you're not already doing so, we all need to really start paying attention to not just how much traffic we're getting from mobile versus desktops, but specifically the nature of how that traffic is getting to us. So one thing that we know here at Immersion Active as a result of our analytics monitoring for our different clients is that, first off, traffic as a result of mobile is just shooting through the roof. But that even more so than on the web, that traffic almost always comes from a search. So even if someone's just looking for a phone number, there is a search. Now you add an assistant, which is how they kind of position Siri, to that mix, and you have an even greater reason that I think this is going to be important. So we need to be looking at search terms and phrases in a discrete manner so that we can understand what's driving that traffic, what kind of traffic phrases are the phrases that are converting for us as well. We need to make sure that I think as marketers we have a plan, and you should already have this in place, frankly, to manage your local listings and reviews. So right now Apple's using Yelp, but certainly Google will use Google Places, and there's a variety of these local databases. So we need to make sure that if you're in those databases, that information is accurate and optimized for how someone might look for you. In addition, in my opinion, this is going to place even greater importance on managing customer reviews on those local listings. So that's something to check out as well, to think about. Next is, and this isn't, I say this respectfully, we all really need to start listening to our customers. One of the things I'm most excited about with Siri is that it's going to force us as marketers to consider human factors more so, because that's what artificial intelligence is based on. And so, with our customers in particular, I think this is going to be really important, because what we're likely to find is that while a younger adult might be mentally trained to speak in Boolean or some sort of a syntax that is more web-like or computer-like, an older adult is, when presented with this human voice that says, "How can I help you?" is just going to talk very, very naturally. So I think it's going to be very important that we as marketers are listening to inbound calls from our call center and documenting that to make sure we understand, because this is going to change everything. In some of my research on Siri, I'm hearing people even from Google saying that this deployment of artificial intelligence and an assistant like this is very likely as big as television in terms of what it means for us as marketers. So, I don't think that's being overstated, and I think we all really need to think about this carefully. Ultimately, what we're going to need to be able to do is to respond accordingly to that. And so your designers and your developers are going to need to think about how they package and deliver that content. How can they normalize it for that assistant? The one final note I'll make on this that we could do have a whole day's conversation about, and that is the emotional factor. In deploying Siri, Apple has effectively stepped between your customer and you. And sure, Google had done that too, right? But the most emotional connection you had with Google was their cute Google Doodle on holidays. But now you have some technology that comes off like a true assistant, listens to you, reacts with personality. And as human beings, I can tell you, we will respond to that increasingly as if it was a real person. And this isn't a bad thing. I think, frankly, the rest of us have been lazy the past 10 years. I mean, what have we really done on the internet? AARP, anybody out there that has a website, what have we really done to make that experience more personal? Our clients included. You know, if you answer that question honestly, you know, click to chat, click to talk. Maybe you have, you know, a walkover video of somebody, you know, a one-way conversation of somebody introducing your site. This is a giant leap forward, you know, for which most of us in the past, the closest we've come to this is the implementation of, you know, automated voice tree. And we know what our customers think of that. So the question I'm posing to you is, what will your brand's Siri be? Because as we know, making these emotional connections with our consumer is paramount. It's incredibly important. So something I'm very excited about. Finally, for this week, I've decided to change our Quicksilver question to be a monthly question. And that's because I simply understand everybody's busy, and frankly, the volume of responses that I'm getting. So I'm totally cool doing that. And I'm getting a lot of good feedback that people like the idea. So it just needs to get a little momentum. So the question we posed last week is the question we will maintain throughout December. And we've got one response up there. It's great. But the question is, what's age got to do with it? And I realize that's pretty wide open. But I want to know how you would interpret that question. And just give me your most raw answer in 30 seconds or less by video or text. You can email it to me and I'll post it for you on Facebook, or you can post it yourself if you're part of Facebook. I don't care how that works. So that's that. And of course, as always, you can find all of the links that we've discussed here today on facebook.com/silvertsunami. And I hope everybody has a great December holiday weekend coming up, and I just thought I would kind of wrap up with a quick example here of how Siri works. Siri, does age equal opportunity?
Sorry, I don't understand. Siri, does age equal opportunity?
It's not perfect. Have a great week.